Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thanks, Brother Rizwan. My name is Muhammad Nadeem. I'm Chief Wholesale Banking in Ali's Bank. Islamic Windows has been very important for the growth of Islamic banking, as we all know, and has been historically proven across the globe. AAOIFI has already developed the Islamic banking Islamic accounting standard FAS 18, which is under revision now. And there would be some dedicated presentation for this standard as well. The today's session topics are very important, and we are going to cover about the Sharia consideration for Islamic finance windows, about the governance model, Islamic banking regulatory framework, and how accounting and reporting standards and framework is going to be for the windows, and especially in context of FAS 18 that is recently under draft under a redraft by AAOIFI. And the future and the policy response to the future of Islamic banking windows. Let me introduce my honorable panelists with me. I have Brother Firas Hamdan. He's on the stage. I cannot see, but I'm sure he's there. He's a member of AAOIFI Accounting Board, and he's executive director at the Bank the Liban. Brother Saud Al-Busaidi, he's joining us from Oman. He is a member of AAOIFI Accounting Board, and is a director of Islamic Banking Department of Central Bank of Oman. Brother Afaq Khan, he is joining us from Pakistan virtually. He is the head of Islamic Banking of HVL, and previously he was global CEO of Standard Chartered Sadiq. And Brother Kamran Sherwani is also joining us virtually, and he is a Sharia advisor of Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank Islamic Window. Thank you all of your panelists for being there with me. I want to start from the previous session before the lunch. Maqasid Sharia, very important session. There were a lot of food of thoughts there. I just want to ask first Brother Afaq. Brother Afaq, you think that Islamic windows having some relationship association with their conventional counterpart, and sometimes called that they are actually borrowing some culture and talent and expertise from their parent bank, are able to achieve the Maqasid Sharia as good as Islamic banks? Please let us know your thoughts on this.
Absolutely. I think, if you have the context of all the regulators and looking at particularly in Pakistan, the central bank requires the same level of separation, the same level of transparency, the same level of control. They approve the Sharia fit and proper criteria for the Sharia board. The scholars of the Sharia board are of the same caliber and of the same reputation as the scholars who sit on the full Islamic board. So the infrastructure and the ecosystem is equal, right? So what if potential is any difference? It is the commitment of the board of directors, of the chairman, of the president of the bank, of the head of Islamic banking to enforce it in the letter and the spirit of Sharia, right? So I do not see any conflict per se in the environment that the regulators have created for windows and Islamic banks to coexist. And like you said in your opening remarks, Islamic windows have played a significant role in providing Islamic services to remote areas. If you look at Pakistan context, ABN has the broadest windows, but Islamic branch can't be open there because it will be non-profitable for 20 years. But we are able to reach small customers and service them in a Sharia compliant manner, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong. In practice, you will see different standards. That is true for Islamic banks as well. If somebody says that all Islamic banks have the same standard, I respectfully would beg to differ, right? So it is the practice where we need more focus. It is the practice where we have to change perception of the market. It is the practice where Islamic windows have to maintain the highest level of the standards to do away from this doubt in the minds of people or a myth in the mind of the people or whatever it is. So this question in the coming years should be a mute question. People will say, yeah, let's not waste time on it, right? So it is a work in progress, but the regulators are very focused. We have the same Sharia audits, we have the same central bank Sharia audits, we have the same external Sharia audits, we follow the same IOP standards, right? And there are checks after checks after checks to ensure that the windows are meeting in letter and in spirit. By the grace of Almighty Allah, since I am right here, we have not failed a single audit, either from the central bank or the Sharia external or internal audit from Sharia or my business Sharia audit. At any given time, I am being audited for Sharia. And by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so far, alhamdulillah, touch wood, everything is going fine. So you have to focus on it, yes. Right? It has to be front and center in a window. If you give it lip service, then the people from the conventional side will also give it lip service. If you take the very hard stand that this is non-negotiable period, then they will also, obey. Right? And there are various forums that you can escalate. If the conventional partner is paying lip service, you can certainly escalate it to the executive committee. You can take it to the president's office. You can raise it to the chairman of the board, right? And then because there is reputational risk involved, right? Obviously, the senior management will adhere, take corrective measures. So I think overall, so far, it's less of a problem and more in the minds of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Afaq, for your detailed response. Let me ask the same question from Brother Kamran. He is having a very close view on the Sharia compliance, being a Sharia advisor at Islamic Window. Brother Kamran, you also have a same view that windows are equally capable of achieving the Maqasid Sharia. You know, when Islamic banks especially claim that they are actually having a larger purpose and motive to serve the society, they are having a ethical responsibility, and their ultimate goal always is to appease Allah along with some profit objectives or profit maximization goals. You think that, I mean, windows are still equally compatible to achieve the Maqasid Sharia?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers of arranging such a hybrid type of conference while people are there available attending it physically, and many people around the world are attending. So it's an achievement besides certain challenges. Now, coming to this thing, although Afaq Bhai very clearly provided an overview and especially referring to the regulatory framework of which is there in Pakistan, my answer is not much different from Afaq Bhai, but I would refer to the market where I am, working for the last many years. I'm talking about the UAE. And the same answer is that it all depends on the regulators. And we can see that during the last 3-4 years, the regulators have a very clear and focused approach towards Sharia compliance, where like Islamic banks are concerned or Islamic windows are concerned. So as far as the fit and proper criteria, what Afaq Bhai referred is exactly the same. What is there for an Islamic bank, the same is there for internal Sharia control head, internal Sharia audit head, Sharia committee members, and even the chairman. And we can also talk about the assessments which are required on a periodic basis. Even that is kept same. So our regulators are focused and they're working hard on this. And I think that banks were already very careful about it. Now, after this, specific focus by the central bank of the UAE, things are getting better. So I think it's just like Afaq Bhai said, that it's more of a problem in some people's mind. Otherwise, we have seen some of the windows, working, you can say, slightly better than certain fully fledged Islamic banks. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kamran. Let me ask you another question. You know, public perception is always a challenge for Islamic banks and windows. Although, I mean, some claim it's a myth, some say it's a reality, some say it's understanding or awareness issue at the public end, but it's always challenge. But it's a bigger challenge for the Islamic banking windows. At least I believe so. And maybe it's because of a close association with the conventional counterpart, and that public misperceive the Windows Sharia compliance, or maybe it because of the Islamic bank's behavior. They act like holier than thou, and all the disadvantage of this public perception goes to the Windows. What is your view on this public perception and specific challenge for the Islamic banking windows?
Yeah, exactly. Continuing what I was saying before, that in some cases, as I told you, that some of the Islamic windows have performed better in certain, products or certain services which are being provided to Islamic banking customers overall. Now, if you look at these challenges, I think in some cases, challenges for Islamic windows are more than what we have for fully fledged Islamic banks. I can give you an example of, just take one small example of profit distribution. For an Islamic bank, they're having much more independence as far as the profit distribution is concerned. But when it comes to Islamic windows, they're having a challenge of competing with the market, and then they have a challenge of not creating a cannibalization situation, while the parent also gets offended that, okay, you are just killing our business. So I think that again, there are certain more regulations which are in the pipeline. I'm talking about the regulations pertaining to the profit smoothing techniques, which have been a kind of a topic of discussion between the experts and the Sharia scholars, whether we should be, because the topic of investment account holders have been discussed in many conferences even before, and in many panels. Some of the experts are saying that profit smoothing techniques should not be used, and on the other side, people are saying that if we want to continue this business. So when we look at these specific topics, we see that the challenges for the Islamic windows are bigger than what are being faced by the Islamic banks. So in my view, in some cases, Islamic windows are actually working harder to achieve Sharia compliance while staying in the market. And in my personal opinion, the customers' confidence is also growing with the efforts of the central bank of the UAE. I'm talking about the UAE market, and I can see elsewhere as well. We can see in Oman, we can see in Pakistan. So I think that this perception, wherever it exists, is not correct. And we have seen in some cases, for example, the brand loyalty for Islamic windows is also growing, while completely disregarding whatever is the position of their parent company in the market. So we have seen that certain windows performing even better than their parent company. So I think this is truly a misconception.
Thank you.
I would like to offer one clarification, if I'm allowed, please.
Yes.
In the context of Pakistan particularly, but generally also, and specifically for HBL, I want to clarify for the audience that the Treasury of Islamic Banking is completely independent, reports to Islamic Bank, does not report to the Treasurer. When I look at profit distribution, I look at the Islamic segment. I do not look at the conventional market, whether my own parent or other markets, players in the market. That has never been a consideration. We have a segment which is called the Islamic segment, and we are trying to grow that segment collectively as all the banks and windows, but we are in a capitalist system, we compete with each other as well. So we try and offer comparative rates vis-a-vis the Islamic Bank and other Islamic windows, but there is zero consideration on what is happening on the conventional side of the balance sheet. In 3 years, I've never looked at it.
Thank you, Brother
Yeah,
Afaq.
same here as well.
Yeah, so it's more, depends upon how is the regulatory framework in that jurisdiction. So let me ask Brother South question. He is the regulator. And IBRF, although was late, but was very specific and refined model. It has cherry picked the good out of the good from the other governance models. And we have seen that in Oman, the window governance model is more like bank within a bank model, and they have created a fair firewall or Chinese wall between conventional and Islamic window. So, Brother South, can you tell us your perception, how you are managing this public perception issue in Oman? And it's especially important. I have read in the IBRF that public perception is written by itself as one of the consideration and responsibility of the licensees to manage with the public. So I think this is the only Islamic banking governance model in the world that talks about public perception needs to be managed, and this is the responsibility of the financial institutions. So how CBO is able to manage perceptions issues in Oman? Also, please let us know that what are the elements in your IBRF that are actually helping to manage this perception issue, please.
Thank you, Nadeem. Thank you so much for the introduction. And also many thanks to Brother Umar Ansari for inviting me to be part of this discussions. I have prepared a slide presentation, Brother Nadeem, and I'm not being able to upload that from my side. Maybe AAOIFI team can help me and uploading from their side. That would be better, because that will have better discussions.
Yeah, Brother Rizwan, can you help us or someone from the organizer side to upload the presentation of Brother South? So meanwhile, organizers are uploading the presentation. So let me give my own experience. When I was working as head of Islamic banking with one of the largest window here, I have seen how effective this governance model of CBO was there.
Yeah, I can take that question, Brother Nadeem. I can take that questions while the organizer upload my presentation. Perception, Oman is maybe the last entrant to the Islamic banking. We have Central Bank of Oman actually authorized Islamic banking back in 2013, and being maybe late entrant in the Islamic banking market, but we have benefited from the experiences of other jurisdictions. And the vision that we had earlier in 2013 is that we need to have really proper regulatory framework. And based on that, we have developed what we call it, yeah, thank you so much, team. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah, thank you so much, Brother Rizwan. This is the snapshot of my presentation, dear colleagues. Why we need Islamic banking windows, the model governance and reporting structure. And of course, despite having regulatory framework for the Islamic banking for the windows, there are matters of continued concern, and I will share some of these continued concern and the way forward that we feel where should the Islamic banking be in the next perhaps 3 to 5 years. Next, please. Next. I don't want to actually take so much time from this slide, because it's already known why we need Islamic banking and why so many markets opt for Islamic banking windows. Many, of course, benefits. One of these is low cost to launch. Can take advantage of existing infrastructure, being part of the conventional bank. Quick to launch also. Time required to launch is much lesser compared to a fully fledged bank. It will leverage on the distribution channels of the, the parent bank. Existing distribution channels can be utilized and can provide support to dedicated channels. And of course, sharing of resources, that is also very important, and be it on capital, infrastructure, human resources, and other resources as well. Next, please. With this, of course, with the model of Islamic banking windows, there are, of course, some shortcomings, as been mentioned by my colleagues, and even in the earlier discussions in the, the last two sessions. Perceived Sharia compliance, that is something that we need to manage it all through, because it is being part of the conventional organization. Limitations on independence, directly dependent on conventional parent for resources, decision-making. And there is, fear of cannibalization, because, that is adding to limitation of independence and decision-making. And there are some limitations in effective governance. Above factors result in limitation on effective governance of Islamic banking window. Next, please. What are the specific challenges for regulators? There are many. Commingling of funds is one of the, I think, the most important. And that will have impact on the, Sharia perception of the window. Prudential limits, whether, one of the example, the limit that we have in central banks is single obligor limit. Should it be on the window capital? Should it be on the parent capital? And what is the level playing field between the window and the full-fledged banks? That is something, of a limitation. Segregation of roles and responsibilities, shared services may impact effective dependence, independence of governance, decision-making, perception of Islamic banking, as I mentioned, earlier, reporting requirements and, related limitations, and transition model once window achieves significant growth. What is the next step? Next, please. Next. This is the case of Oman. I'm just, specifically discussing the case of Oman here. We have, dual system having separate regulatory framework for the Islamic banking entities and conventional banks. And we feel that is very, very important. So we can have, proper segregation, proper regulatory framework, Sharia governance framework based on industry best practices. I will talk about it in details in the next slides. Compliance with accredited standards for Islamic banking business, be it the AAOIFI, be it the IFSB, dedicated banking services to manage stakeholder perception, and robust regulatory oversight. Next, please. How we have done it in terms of regulating the Islamic banking windows. We consider the Islamic banking windows as a small bank, bank within a bank model with clear segregation. We have mandated, assigned capital, separate capital for the window, in addition to the minimum capital requirement for the parent. There is no try to minimize, the issues of commingling of funds through one of the examples, robust core banking and IT system. We have mandated that, the windows have a Sharia compliant core banking system separate from the conventional. And in fact, we went even to the extreme that we are not allowing that system to be connected to the CBO systems unless it has, separate port to be connected to the payment system of the Central Bank of Oman. We have, mandated that, Islamic banking business for the windows has to be done through separate branches only. There should not be, the same branch doing Islamic and conventional. And to give, the right credibility to the window also is that head of Islamic window has to be of senior management cadre and reporting to the CEO. Next, please. And I just mentioned that I missed to mention one point, proper fit and proper criteria for the Sharia board. With these, requirements in terms of Sharia governance, we have at the Central Bank of Oman, High Sharia Supervisory Authority, and the role of that is just to provide the proper harmonization in the market. Capital adequacy compliance requirements independently for windows as well as parent, and that is what I had mentioned earlier. We look at a window is a small bank within the bank. Single obligor limit for windows based on parent, and that was at the initial stage, because having the capital of 10 million for the window compared to the 100 million riyal, Omani riyal, to the full-fledged bank, windows will be at disadvantage. So we felt that the single obligor limit for the windows to be based on the parent. Dual reporting consolidated as per IFRS, and windows as per AAOIFI. AAOIFI accounting standards are mandatory here in Oman. Windows and Islamic banks can take funds from conventional on Islamic mode and not the other way. Next, please. Although we have, the regulatory framework for the Islamic banking here in Oman, there are still, some concern that we have to deal actually all through. One of them is, prudential limits, and providing the right level playing field between the window and the full Islamic bank is really something, challenging. Though we have, we have asked windows to have, separate services. Of course, at the end of the day, there will be some shared services between the conventional, the parent, and the window, and that may create, in some cases, limitation in independence. Sophisticated products complicate reporting requirements, and that is, I think, Brother Firas will share some lights on the accounting standards. Next, please. Being in the market for the last 8 years, I think the way forward is that we need to make sure that level playing field for both the windows and fully fledged banks are maintained. Consumer protection is an important issue, and it has to be managed all through, by building market awareness through training and workshops. We need actually, after almost 9 years now, that a roadmap for the Islamic banking, especially for the windows. Windows should not stay as a windows, and that was very clear from the beginning of day one in Islamic banking. They have to be, separate entities, through subsidiaries. And since windows have reached, a threshold, a good threshold, it is time now. I think they have to be, independent of the parent. These are my thoughts, Brother Nadeem. It's all now over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Saud, for giving the presentation. Yeah, indeed, the money governance model is very thorough and robust, and it has helped up to a large extent in managing the windows issues, including public perception, segregation of funds, and independence of the window. Brother Kamran, just another point linked to the governance, and that is the profit calculation and distribution. It's very unique for Islamic banking, and it has a special challenge as well. With the way Islamic banking industry, they are calculating the weightages, they are distributing the profit, and you have very core interest actually in this. You have a hands-on experience of managing this profit distribution. So please tell us, what are the challenges that windows are facing in profit distribution, and what are the systems limitations and other kind of supports they need?
Thank you. Brother Nadeem, basically, as I discussed earlier, when we talk about our weightages, our profit distribution mechanism, which is based on the concept of either mudaraba or wakala, and later on the profits are distributed amongst the depositors. So the concept is completely different and cannot be linked to any market benchmarks directly, whether it is any rates paid by other Islamic institutions or even any conventional institutions. So we are actually, we do not have an option to match the rates with any other institution, including our own conventional parent company. So that becomes a challenge to make them understand. But over the period of years that we have been, alhamdulillah, successful in explaining to everyone, even at the parent level, that this concept is completely different. It works in a different way, and there is no way that can be matched. And since we have weightages, since we have mudaraba, uh, profit to be distributed between mudarib and arbabul mal, which are the depositors. So there is no way we can match it. So in order to keep it very clear and Sharia compliant, we have been managing it initially with difficulty, but now with such an ease that everyone at the parent level understands. But still, when we have to use profit smoothing techniques to, like, which is still a concern for many, and now the regulators are also paying a lot of attention on that. So we can see further developments where the regulators, because we have already seen that there is a keen interest by the regulators that they are bringing new regulations pertaining to profit smoothing techniques, which had been a concern for some Sharia scholars, as well as majority of the experts who are in the favor of passing on the losses to the investment account holders. So although we have seen certain experiments, some of them failed, but still, if there is a regulator behind this, I hope we will be able to manage these challenges with the help of certain regulations coming to limit certain activities which are used as profit smoothing techniques. I'm specifically referring here to the donation part, or the hiba or the gift part, which is given by the institution to the depositors, just to match the rates which are given by other Islamic institutions, so that we are able to manage the displaced commercial risk. And on the other side, how are we going to maintain the profit equalization reserve and investment risk reserve? And definitely regulators' role is becoming more and more important on this.
Thank you, Brother Kamran. So now moving to the second part of the session that is very important about accounting and reporting framework, we have Brother Firas Hamdan with us. There is a presentation on revised FAS 18, Islamic financial services offered by the conventional banks. Brother Rizwan or someone can actually upload the presentation for the audience, please. And Brother Firas will be covering on the key challenges faced by Windows in the accounting and reporting combination of or consolidation of accounts, and why there is a need of a new accounting standard. And he will give us the gaps or differences between the new and the old and proposed standard. Yeah, Brother Firas.
Thank you, brother. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-mursaleen wa Sayyidina Muhammad wa ali bayti at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Brother Omar.
The voice is very low. We can't hear.
Okay, now. Brother Omar, my distinguished guests, my fellow board members and fellow panelists, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm glad to be here today with you in this conference. After such a gap, 2 years or more from due to the pandemic, I hope humanity will overcome this pandemic soon. And thanks for the technology, we kept in touch, and we continued to work with AAOIFI and for the benefit of this industry. I wasn't supposed to prepare something, but I get the benefit of the presentation prepared by IOFI to talk about the Windows standard in a public hearing. So I summarized it as much as I can. I know I'm in the position as the last speaker. So after a long day, everyone is tired and eager to go and relax. It was supposed to be Saud, our brother Saud, and I was happy and said I will leave him the last one, so he will take this burden. Now I'm stuck with it. Anyway, I'll take it short as much as I can without losing the benefit of what we are was the target of this session. Before I start, I will try to start with a little introduction, one step back of what our colleagues were saying, the story to what we work for Windows. We have different types of banks or Islamic financial institutions. We have the Islamic financial institutions. Some people call it Sharia compliant institution. It has many names: participatory institutions, alternative banking, and there's many names for it. For us, we call it Islamic financial institutions, and we have the others. What do we mean? We say that if we have an institution that it says clearly in its statement, in its license, or in the objective of its constitution, that it works according to Sharia rulings and principles as entirely, completely according to Sharia rules and principles, that's Islamic financial institution. If it is not in this condition, so it's not Islamic financial institution, it's a conventional institution. That's it. As simple as that. Now, in the middle, what we have, some of the conventional institutions provide some services that are in compliance with Sharia. Sometimes they are targeting the market to have more share in the market. Okay. To have a share on the market or testing the market to see if they can go bigger and go like in subsidiaries and so on. And some institutions want to benefit just to maximize their profits. At IOFI, our concern is that to promote this industry as Islamic financials and to develop it. So we try our best to help in any way we can. That's why we encourage following the Windows if it's working in the proper way. So we had some conditions that should apply in order to consider it in that matter. Now, if we take into consideration what we were talking during the day about Sharia requirements, Sharia rulings, Sharia principles, and what are the governance challenges that exist, there are many points that should be covered. But for me, I'm covering the financial aspect, what we have as a financial framework to help in this matter. IOFI had a standard, which is FAST 18, currently active. It was issued in 2002, and this was effective starting 2003. Practically 18 years till now. What's new? Well, IOFI in 2018 started a new project to revise most of the standards. and to see what is more suitable for the market. The main standards that it worked on is a FAS 1, which is a general presentation for Islamic financial institutions, and the conceptual framework, the accounting conceptual framework. After that, as a consequence, there's a lot of standards that are changed, including FAS 18. So what we did is we revised FAS 18, and we are reaching a new standard. This standard is already an exposure draft in the market, and we have a lot of public hearings about that, and a lot of remarks. And we have, I think, in a couple of days, the board meetings that will decide the final touches for this standard, and it will be ready to be issued soon, inshallah. What are the main points that we have? In a conventional bank can present some Islamic financial services or products. Okay. They are comply with Sharia. Okay. How can they present it? They can present it via branches, departments, units, or even a desk. Our concern is that what constitutes a window for us? What IOFI said is that I skipped most of the point because some are interrelated with Brother Saud, what he was saying. For IOFI, we said, okay, you want to have a window, let's consider that. We said either we have a licensed window, which is licensed by the regulators, that's one solution, or we can have a virtual window. What do we mean with virtual window? A virtual window when we have the ability to assign and allocate the resources of funds that are used for providing these services and products. So if you can assign the funds directly that are used for these products, so you can say we have a virtual window. If you cannot assign these funds and there's no clear cut for this matter, it's not considered a window for us. So in this standard, in the scope of the standard, we are saying, if you are a conventional bank and you are providing a service and you cannot do this assignment, you cannot do this clear cut allocation of sources of fund, this standard is not applicable, and we don't consider you as virtual window. That's the main point that we are talking about, and that tackles one major point that our concern that people have, which is what are the sources of the funds that are used for these products? Is it halal? Is it Sharia compliant or not? That's one point. Second, we summarized the accounting guidance, and what we did is now we have financial reporting, standard for financial reporting, and we presented levels of financial reporting. So either we go with the full set of financial reports that are required by FAS 1, or we go with summarized notes to the financial reports of the conventional bank. Now the thing is that this is related to a conventional bank. The conventional bank usually works according to IFRS. Why he will be interested in working or presenting reports according to requirements of IOFI? There's many reasons. Basically, sometimes you have the regulators requirement. So to present it as IOFI, according to the standards of IOFI, that's one. Second, if he wants to grow bigger and take real share of the market, he has to do so, because this will give confidence and trust for the people that are buying these products and services, that he is really in compliance with Sharia. What we did also, we introduced the terms, as I said in the beginning, for Islamic finance window and for conventional financial institutions. We talked about materiality and what we have for this, and we considered it should be material within the window. So it's not just for the conventional bank as a whole, but within the window, it's material. We introduced the terminology of Sharia principles and rules. This terminology includes a hierarchy. What Sharia rulings are we taking? So we start with Sharia standards that are issued with AAOIFI. Then we go to what we have as Sharia issued by regulators. Then after that, for the central Sharia boards, if we have after that any required Sharia requirements that are mentioned in the accounting standards, and at the end is the Sharia board of the institution in itself. After that, we put the requirement of disclosure. We add some disclosures to enhance the governance side, and we added some disclosures for control and regulatory purposes. These updates are all in line with Phase 1, the new Phase 1, and the conceptual framework. Now, with doing all of this, we gave the tool for the regulators to how to account and report or set the regulation to get the reports from these conventional banks that are providing these products, Islamic products. From there on, it's their responsibility and the responsibility of the customers that are buying these products and services to hold these institutions accountable for their work. What are the major concerns? Sharia compliance. As I said, we introduced the hierarchies, a new hierarchy for Sharia rules. In the morning, Brother Farouk Rida were talking about the first ever joint work group between AAOIFI and IFSB that are working on governance side, and it has a part related for Windows and having Sharia governance for Windows. That's one. Second, for IFRS and FAS, as Brother Saud was mentioning in his presentation, there could be a dual reporting, and they are applying it in Oman. So they can have two kind of reports, but the main is the conventional for sure, but that doesn't have a problem with setting the reports of the Islamic window. Third, as for the accounting and the IT system, a lot of questions came in the public hearings about these issues. It's not a matter. It's not an issue, a real matter. For technology, it's solvable as long as the institution intends to do it. So some people seeing it as a concern. We don't see it as a concern. It's just a technology issue and solvable. Maybe the cost will be higher to have dual system, but if they want and they really want to go with Islamic Windows and report really in proper manner, it will not be an obstacle. Okay. Due to what I see from your faces, I can't see for the people on Zoom, but for the people that are attending here, I see everyone is tired. So I'll stop here and give the room if anyone has any question.
Thank you, Brother Firas. So meanwhile, let me ask a question from Brother Afaq. His view on the accounting challenges, especially when he is combining the books of Windows with the conventional counterpart. He has any specific view on the FAS 18 revised one? Brother Afaq? I think Brother Afaq is no more with us. Yeah. So any question from the audience?
So that answers something. I said from the people that are here, I see them tired. So also on Zoom, they are tired.
No. This is not the case. We are fresh.
Okay, so I have a one last question. Meanwhile, maybe we get some questions from the audience. So what do you think? I mean, Brother Firas, and even from the practitioner side, Brother Afaq or Brother Kamran, what is the future of Windows? Should it be policy driven, forced by the regulator, or you think it should be based on market dynamics and let the Windows decide they want to spin off, they want to grow as on their normal pace, or there should be a shutdown of Windows? So just a question, and open for your answer, please.
I don't think we should shut down Windows. Okay, I just to finalize the answer. I don't think we should shut down Windows, but on the contrary, we say, I'm not encouraging Windows, but we are saying that let's keep on and getting bigger and bigger in order to become like fully fledged banks and so on, but not as just to keep as Windows. Taking into consideration what we said in IOFI, that Windows in its meaning, the virtual Windows that is in compliance with Sharia, and you can assign the sources of the funds. Okay, if it's not that, it's not considered as window as all, and we are not in concern of that. And yes, we prefer not to have it. There's a question on the floor.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام.
أحمد الحاج حسن الطاهر, AUB Group, Al-Hilal Islamic Banking. My comment is that Islamic branches and window must be as a cornerstone stone for conversion. Some banks, they are objecting or in the objective of setting such window or branches to convert all this activity to Islamic activity. So it is a very important objective to be included in IOFI as initiation for conversion or existing banks. Second thing, that this windows or branches, there is a difference between windows and branches according to the practice, because this is three style of Islamic banking: either full-fledged Islamic bank, or branches, or windows. Yeah, branches are more segregation and more management than windows. And there is segregation location, the system, Sharia board, and all this, even though it is within the frame of the conventional license. Yeah. Then one of the other objectives that it is satisfied, the needs of those who are needing fully Sharia compliant product, Islamic banking product. So you see, for the conventional bank, the objective, as mentioned, that is to take profit from the market, but by keeping this client to move to other entity. So it is very important to differentiate between windows and branches in the practice.
Brother Azim, may I add something here?
Yes, please.
Okay. I understand there are different views in respect of Islamic windows, but we have seen that Islamic windows have created a healthy competition in the market. Now, there is something so-called Sharia compliance of Islamic windows, definitely regulators are paying a lot of attention and they are successful in that. Now, coming to the quality of service, this service level is a very important thing, and it develops with the help of healthy competition between the institutions. We can see that even the larger Islamic banks are very small as compared to the size of bigger conventional institutions having smaller Islamic windows. And the service quality, which some of the conventional banks, or you can also take the example of international or multinational, their service quality level is in some cases very good. And this gives a healthy competition as far as, so the customer is not only getting a Sharia compliant product, but is also getting better quality of service, uh, whether it is coming from a conventional institution having an Islamic window or a fully fledged Islamic bank. So I think that the focus of the regulators is going to help minimize all the issues pertaining to Sharia compliance, and Sharia compliance level will definitely improve with the efforts of the regulators as well as the institutions following the instructions and guidance of the regulators, higher Sharia authorities, which are formed in many jurisdictions. And on the other side, if we have these Islamic windows, definitely quality of service from a customer's perspective is going to be maintained and further improved.
Thank you.
If I may.
Yeah, Brother Firaz, there is a question on the Zoom. I think it's for you. Please, how they are going to treat Sharia audit and conventional audit reports? Are they going to be different or the same one? So please, if it is going to cover under FAS 18 or FAS 1 or some other standard, you can guide the audience.
We didn't cover the Sharia audit because what we are targeting is the reporting, the financial reporting, not the auditing side. But yes, there should be a difference, because if you are, especially if you take the first level of presentation, the full set of the full set of the financial reports, so definitely there will be a difference. But the thing is, the problem would be cost. What I see is just cost, and if you are targeting to have these windows, I don't think you will mind this cost. And if I may, I will go back to the question of our brother here, who distinguished between like three types of institution. One is, the first one was with a target of transformation to go to Islamic, which we encourage. The last one, which is for profit, which we don't encourage, and it's scoped out of the standard. And in the middle is a window. Now you may disagree with us, but no, we didn't go just with branches or departments. We go all the way till the desk, even if they have just a desk. The problem is not the way it's presented. The problem is it with Sharia compliance? So our concern is still going back to the same subject, the sources of the funds. If you can allocate it clearly, so it's fine. No need, and it doesn't matter if it's a real window or branch or whatever. So there's no problem in that.
Nadeem, may I share some thoughts from our experience?
Yes, please, brother.
Thank you, Nadeem, and thank you for raising this question. In Oman, Windows is basically a group of branches. It's a cluster, as been defined in the IBRFA, cluster of branches. And these branches are independent, and they are only offering, Islamic banking products. They are not allowed to offer conventional. And as you know rightly mentioned, different jurisdictions have different experiences, and Windows in some jurisdictions basically is a small window in the conventional branch, whereas in our case, Windows is separate branches, and branches in other jurisdictions is the same as we classify it as Windows. I believe that if the regulatory framework is very clear and on the requirements, be it on segregation of responsibilities, be it on the proper Sharia governance framework. Here, we mandate to have SSB for each window. Scholars are not allowed to have membership more than one SSB. Clear fit and proper criteria for the Sharia scholars. Separate capital requirements, separate IT systems. This is what I had mentioned earlier, that we look at Windows as a small bank within the bank. So having all of these, I think that will really limit the whatever concerns that they are on the Windows. I'm sure some concerns will continue, and I think it is the responsibility of the regulator and responsibility of the board of directors of the parent bank to make sure that these separation and segregation continue all through. Thank you, Nadeem.
Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, as Brother Saud is saying, some jurisdictions like Oman is defining it. I think even Pakistan is the same definition, that window is a cluster of branches. Whereas Brother Firas is saying they have taken a wider definition of windows in the FAS 18. So Brother Firas, there's a question on the Zoom that how will ensure the authenticity of the virtual windows? I mean, they may disclose something, they may misappropriate funds. So virtual windows concept that is given in FAS 18, I mean, the question is how to ensure the authenticity of the virtual windows? Or is this just a volunteer, I mean, disclosure by the virtual windows owner, I think? Yeah, please.
I think the best answer would be from Brother Omar, who's here with us.
Yeah, someone can hand over the mic to Brother Omar.
Just a second, bringing the mic.
Thank you very much, Brother Firas, for forwarding it to me. And it's better not to sleep. Actually, I was also saying this thing that the people here are more prone to sleep because they had a good lunch, and people on Zoom didn't have it. So actually, they are more active. In a nutshell, we don't want to promote any concept of virtual window. Actually, it's other way around. We are saying what's happening in the market. There are two practices in the market. One is a licensed window, and we promote practices like Oman and Pakistan. And inshallah, in the joint framework of AAOIFI IFSB that we discussed today in the morning, once it comes out as exposure draft shortly in next few days, inshallah, you will see that actually there is a chapter on Windows which actually covers and clarifies these things. But now, right now, we are talking about another situation that this situation is the good situation for having window, or ideal situation for having window, with a very strict and good regulatory mechanism and Sharia governance mechanism. But on the other hand, there are practices in the market. Now, practices in the market actually that exist include even offering of a single product. There are institutions in some Western parts of the world, and there are some institutions even in some Muslim countries. We have seen those examples that they offer just one product and say, oh, we are doing this one product, this is Sharia compliant. The concept of virtual window is to segregate all assets, liabilities, quasi-equity, and other elements of the financial statements in a manner that everything related to Islamic finance is segregated. And rather, we, as compared to our previous standard, that is the existing FAS 18, the new FAS 18 will not be actually encouraging any sort of having a product without having full dedicated, separate, segregated resources. So actually, accounting is not regulation. Accounting is reflection of business facts. And we are trying to put in as accountings on the accounting side that even if the regulation is not there to that level, if regulation is there, well and good. It's a window, it needs to be accounted for like this. But if even the regulation on the window regulation side and Sharia governance side is not that strong, even from accounting side, we are trying to enforce that you need to segregate all assets, liabilities, and all functions related to the window in form of a virtual window. We are calling it a virtual window because it's not sort of a licensed window in line with the more sophisticated regulatory regimes. Rather, it's a weaker, it is working in a weaker system, or in some countries where there is no framework of Islamic banking existing at all. So if we do not want to say, oh, you cannot have it unless it is not licensed. No, we can do it, but it's better to have it under licensing. But in those countries where there is no licensing regime, there is no Sharia governance framework, where there is no Sharia compliance requirements, or even Islamic finance not acknowledged by the regulator as a separate set of financial system. So in all these situations, we are just saying that you segregate whatever is related to that. So that is the whole concept, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Omar, for your detailed response. We have 3 questions, 3 raised hand from the Zoom. So I will take one by one. So first one is Mr. Siri Devi Estning. So please, you unmute your mic and you can ask the question. Brother Siri Devi, can you ask your question, please? You're not available, I'll give a chance to the next. Brother Mehdi Hassan, can you unmute your mic and ask the question? Brother Mehdi Hassan. Maybe some technical issue. Okay, the third is from Brother Muhammad Aslam. So can you please unmute the mic and ask question?
I think, Brother Nadeem, we can move forward.
Okay. Okay, so with this, we are reaching to the end of the session. If there is no more question, I would request all of the panelists for 1 to 2 minute closing remarks, quick remarks, because we are almost run out of the time. Please, Brother Firas. Yeah, Brother Rizwan.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Yeah, Brother Mehdi Hassan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam. Please raise your question.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
كيف حالكم؟
Alhamdulillah.
الله يحفظكم.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you for all. شكرا، نشكركم، نشكر الجميع بجميع مقاماتهم المختلفة على ما قدمتموه.
Brother Nadeem, it's not a question actually. He's just thanking the organizers for this conference.
Thank you for your compliment, Brother Mehdi Hassan. So, Brother Firas, can we wrap up the session and your
نعم، وأيد فكرة فتح نافذة Islamic window, to open the Islamic window. I am agreed with the to open Islamic window.
Okay, so you have a comment that you think Islamic windows should be shut down. Okay, thank you. Noted. Thank you, Brother Mehdi.
Thank you for all.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, Brother Firas, over to you. Brother Firas, any closing remarks?
Yes, what I didn't
Quick
hear.
closing remarks. 1 to 2 sentences only.
Full final remark.
Yes.
Well, I repeat what Brother Omar said. Preferably to have a fully fledged. The best solution is to have a fully fledged Islamic financial institution. This is the best. Let's go lower. Better is to have a licensed window. If not, we will say that, okay, we will accept virtual window because of what we have as la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Other than that, we will not accept.
Thank you. Brother Saud, from you, final words.
Thank you, Nadeem, for this, session. The excellent management from your side. Windows has to be exist, and I think the most important is that you have to have as a regulator, a roadmap for these windows. They cannot continue as a window, forever. And all these issues, be it on, perception, independence, unless you have, a separate entity. I think these will still continue, of course, for different from jurisdictions to another, jurisdictions. And I think the most important also is really to have a well-defined regulatory framework for Windows and banks. Thank you, Nadeem.
Thank you, Brother. So, Brother Kamran.
Just continuing on this, one size fits all approach might not be a good one as far as Islamic windows are concerned. And I think it all depends on jurisdictions. What are the regulatory, framework which are existing in those jurisdictions? And in case there is a the regulatory, oversight is developing. So it's a work in progress. Okay, so in that case we can work with the existing models, and wherever we have a strongly developed and regulated sector, then definitely we can talk. So it's a step-by-step approach which should be preferred everywhere wherever we want to develop this business and grow this business.
Thank you, Brother Kamran. Thank you, all of the panelists. Yeah, window is a very important pillar of the Islamic banking growth. And although they could not perform as initially expected, and they could not, leverage on their conventional counterpart for so many reasons, but as agreed by all the panelists that there should be a policy response in the form of a strategic roadmap for the windows, and they must evolve into some bigger institution and can serve better Islamic banking going forward. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, audience, for your listening and for your questions. With this, we end this session, and I hand over to Brother Rizwan. Brother Rizwan, over to you.
Okay, so this concludes the last session of the day, and I must thank the session chair, Mr. Muhammad Nadeem Aslam, and the panelists, Mr. Saud Al-Busaidi, Mr. Afaq Khan, Mr. Firas Hamdan, Mr. Kamran Sherwani, for the interesting and the insightful discussion that we had, which brings us to the end of day one of the conference as well. I must thank all the participants here today as well for being here with us, and we look forward to having you tomorrow as well. We'll start the second day tomorrow at 9 a.m. inshallah. See you then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.